Hi everyone, this is What If Fan, bringing you another part of the What If copy system in Naruto. Please find the fanfic name and author name in the description. If you enjoy the video, please like and subscribe and check out the other content on the channel. Let's start Chapter 11, Leaving the Land of Whirlpools, Journey to Konoha. But she couldn't exactly punish him for that. She wasn't going to beat up a child, no matter how infuriating he was. Suddenly, Tsunade glared at Shin. The little punk was clearly looking down on her, yet he denied it. "You've got guts, kid, recovering from your clan's destruction so quickly." She placed a hand on Shin's head, ruffling his hair with more force than necessary. As she messed up his hair, she realized how soft it was. It was almost addictive. Looking at his cute little face, she couldn't resist pinching his cheek. So soft, so adorable. Kushina, seeing Tsunade manhandling Shin, yelled, "Hey! Stop that!" Shin wasn't happy either. Tsunade might enjoy pinching his cheek, but he found it extremely annoying. Having his face pinched by a woman? Humiliating. "Get your hands off me. I don't like being touched by men," Shin said, scowling. Men? Tsunade froze. Was he blind? Where did he get the idea that she was a man? "Kid, you need to get your eyes checked. I'm a woman, not a man," Tsunade said through gritted teeth. "Ha! I may be young, but I know the difference between a man and a woman. You don't exactly scream woman to me." Shin's eyes drifted towards her chest, his expression a mix of disdain and disbelief. Tsunade's face flushed red. This brat was deliberately mocking her. "Princess Tsunade, we found 2 survivors." Tsunade, about to give Shin a piece of her mind, glared at him one last time before turning towards the newcomers. 2 males, one around Shin's age, the other in his 20s. Both Uzumaki survivors. Shin recognized the boy. "Uzumaki Kai? Long time no see. How's your leg?" Shin gave Kai a sly smile, which earned him a glare filled with anger and a hint of fear. Kai was the son of Uzumaki Hikaru, the taijutsu master, whose physique Shin had copied. Shin had broken the boy's leg during their previous encounter. He hadn't expected Kai to survive the destruction of the clan. The kid was lucky to be alive. Tsunade's eyes flickered between Shin and Kai. There was definitely bad blood between these two. But she wasn't interested in getting involved in a squabble between kids. She turned to the older Uzumaki. "What's your name?" I'm Uzumaki Hikaru, a jonin of the Uzumaki clan." "Do you know who attacked the clan?" Tsunade asked. "I don't know. I was scared, so I hid right away. I don't know what happened after that." Hikaru hung his head in shame, earning a scornful look from Tsunade. This guy was older than her, yet he was a coward. When his clan was in danger, he hid like a rat. Tsunade wasn't even as old as this Hikaru. Despite calling Shin a kid, she was only 16. But in the ninja world, 16 wasn't that young. During the Warring States period, people were already married with children at that age. Tsunade ordered her men to continue searching for survivors while investigating who was behind the attack. Judging by the water damage and the traces of lightning release, she had a pretty good idea. If her suspicions were correct, there wasn't much she could do. "Kid, what's your name?" Tsunade asked Shin. Shin was getting tired of being called kid. Too bad he couldn't beat Tsunade in a fight. He estimated her strength to be at elite jonin level, definitely stronger than him. "I'm Uzumaki Shin, and don't call me kid. You'll regret it when I'm stronger than you." "Regret it? Heh, I'll be waiting for that day," Tsunade said with a smirk. Shin snorted. She might be looking down on him now, but she'd sing a different tune when he surpassed her. "Shin, I'm hungry." Kushina tugged at his sleeve. Shin took out some dry rations and jerky. It wasn't much, but it would fill their stomachs for now. 3 days later, the bodies of the Uzumaki clan members were buried, including Shin's grandfather, the clan elder. Seeing his grandfather's body, Shin felt a strange mix of emotions. He hadn't been close to the man, they had barely interacted, but he still felt a pang of sadness. After the burial, they set off for Konoha with Tsunade. Shin carried a katana strapped to his back. It was over 3 feet long, with a simple gold design on the hilt. He had found it in the Uzumaki clan shrine. It was incredibly sharp, able to slice through stone with ease. He hadn't tested it on steel yet, though. They sailed towards the Land of Fire. Shin stood at the stern, watching the Land of Whirlpools disappear over the horizon. Kushina stood beside him. They didn't know when they would return. Feeling sad to leave? Shin and Kushina turned to see Tsunade standing behind them. Kushina puffed out her cheeks, glaring at Tsunade. Shin was also keeping his distance from Tsunade. The woman was relentless, constantly ruffling his hair and pinching his cheeks. He was annoyed, but he didn't want to reveal his strength, so he hadn't resisted much. He wondered if she had some weird fetish. Kushina's reason for disliking Tsunade was simple. She hadn't even ruffled Shin's hair or pinched his cheeks. Yet this woman was doing all the things she hadn't done. It felt like Tsunade was stealing Shin away from her. When you get to Konoha, think of it as your new home. In time, you'll forget all the unpleasantness. We don't need your comforting words. Come on, Shin. Kushina glared at Tsunade and dragged Shin into the cabin. This woman was the source of all her unpleasantness. That little brat. Tsunade noticed the hostility. Could she be jealous? Does she like Shin? Tsunade wondered. Kids these days, maturing so fast. That girl's only 5, right? Chapter 12, Ambush on the Road. Shin, stay away from that woman from now on, Kushina said seriously once they were inside the cabin. Yeah, no arguments here. Shin wasn't keen on being manhandled and unable to retaliate. It was infuriating. He'd get her back when he was stronger. For now, he'd steer clear of Tsunade and her vice-like grip. His cheeks were still sore. Just wait, Tsunade, Shin thought darkly. Hours later, the ship finally reached the shore. Kushina, pale and nauseous, leaned heavily against Shin. Shin, I don't feel so good. My head is spinning. Shin supported her, surprised that she was seasick. It was probably because this was her first time on a ship. We're here, Kushina. Hang in there. Getting seasick? Tsunade quipped, arms crossed. Kushina's open hostility had irked her. She didn't want to stoop to the level of a child, but seeing Kushina's pathetic state, she couldn't resist a jab. I am not seasick. Kushina weakly shook her head, trying to maintain a defiant front despite her nausea. Tsunade merely clicked her tongue. Continuing this squabble with a child was beneath her. Let's rest for a bit before we continue. Seeing that not only Kushina but also Akiko and Kai were suffering from seasickness, Tsunade called for a break. Shin was fine. He didn't get seasick. And Uzumaki Hikaru, being a jonin, was also unaffected. They rested, ate some rations, and then resumed their journey. How long will it take to reach Konoha from here? Shin asked Tsunade. Come closer, and I'll tell you, Tsunade said with a sly grin, beckoning him with a finger. Nah, I don't need to know that badly. Shin and Kushina trailed behind, taking in the scenery of the Land of Fire. They had set foot on Land of Fire soil as soon as they disembarked. While not the largest of the 5 great nations, it definitely had the most fertile land. The trees here were lusher than those in the Land of Whirlpools, and the people seemed more prosperous. Shin-chan, how are we going to live in Konoha? Kushina asked, her voice laced with worry. Same as always. Don't stress, Kushina, and please, stop calling me Shin-chan. Shin patted her head reassuringly. Kushina felt a wave of warmth. She was apprehensive about this unfamiliar place called Konoha, but with Shin by her side, her fears seemed to melt away. As long as she was with Shin, it didn't matter where they were. Gradually, Kushina's anxiety lessened. The shadow of the Uzumaki clan's destruction seemed a little less dark. What are you two chatting about? Tsunade had fallen back to join them. Wow, you actually have time to talk to us? Shin remarked. We're escorting you, but we're in Land of Fire now. The most we'll encounter are bandits. It's safe here. Tsunade had been vigilant before entering Land of Fire, but now she was completely relaxed. Whoosh! Whoosh! A volley of kunai and shuriken rained down on them, some even strapped with explosive tags. Shin's face paled. He couldn't worry about hiding his strength now. He grabbed Kushina and dodged. The Senju ninjas, though caught off guard, were still highly skilled. They reacted quickly, shielding the Uzumaki survivors and evading the attack. Tsunade's eyes widened. She had been about to pull Shin and Kushina out of the way, but Shin had reacted first, moving with incredible speed. She estimated his speed to be on par with her own. Looks like that kid Shin isn't simple after all. She quickly dodged the projectiles. Now wasn't the time to ponder this. She had to deal with the attackers. Her eyes turned cold. To be ambushed within Land of Fire borders was unacceptable, and she had just told Shin that it was safe here. This was a slap in the face. Tsunade felt her cheeks burn with shame. These attackers would pay. Shin and Kushina took cover behind a large tree, Shin's arm protectively around Kushina. His eyes darted around, alert for any movement. If only I could awaken the Uzumaki clan's mind's eye of Kagura. The mind's eye of Kagura was a sensory technique unique to the Uzumaki clan, one of the most powerful in the ninja world. When activated, it allowed the user to sense chakra fluctuations within a radius of several dozen kilometers. With a known chakra signature, it could pinpoint the target's location, movement, number of people, and even their speed. Its sensory capabilities were comparable to the Byakugan. Unfortunately, very few Uzumaki could awaken this ability. In the original story, only Karen was known to possess it. Shin didn't know if he could awaken it. If he had the mind's eye of Kagura, he could easily pinpoint the enemy's location and movements, making it easier to defend against them. Unlike now, where he was forced to rely on his senses and constant vigilance to avoid being caught off guard. Shinobi were masters of assassination. Surprise attacks were their specialty. "Kushina, don't be afraid. I'll protect you." "I'm not afraid," Kushina said, clenching her fists. She hated being the damsel in distress. "I have to train harder." She resolved to become stronger so she wouldn't be a burden to Shin. As Shin and Kushina hid, the battle raged. Over 20 ninjas, clad in identical uniforms and without forehead protectors, emerged from the forest. It was impossible to tell which village they were from. They charged towards the Senju ninjas, weapons drawn. Tsunade channeled chakra throughout her body, activating her monstrous strength. A powerful aura enveloped her. "Die!" She punched one of the attackers, sending him flying like a rag doll. He was dead before he hit the ground. That was the power of Tsunade's monstrous strength. Chapter 13. Arrival at Konoha. Yikes, that's brutal. Shin watched from his hiding spot as Tsunade pulverized another ninja with a single punch, the impact leaving the poor guy looking like he'd been hit by a truck. Shin winced. "Twice!" This woman's strength is ridiculous. I must not. Wait, what am I even thinking? "Shin, what are you muttering about?" Kushina nudged him. "Nothing. Kushina, don't you think she's a bit violent?" Shin eyed the mangled remains of the ninja. He wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of one of those punches. "Violent? Nah, she's all right," Kushina said, her eyes practically sparkling with admiration. Shin instinctively took a step back. Did Kushina have violent tendencies? He suddenly remembered that Kushina's temper wasn't exactly angelic. Shin turned his attention back to Tsunade. Her strength was probably at elite Jonin level, but she was displaying power far beyond that, one-punching ninjas like they were toddlers. Who sent these guys? Shin observed the attackers. Initially he thought they were after the Uzumaki survivors, but now it seemed they were targeting the Senju. He noticed that Uzumaki Hikaru was no longer under the protection of the Senju ninjas. If the attackers were after the Uzumaki, they would have gone for Hikaru. A strange thought crossed Shin's mind. Could these ninjas be from Konoha? It wasn't impossible. They were in Land of Fire, after all. If over 20 foreign ninjas could infiltrate Land of Fire without Konoha, the most powerful hidden village, noticing something was fishy. Man, maybe going to Konoha isn't such a safe bet after all. Perhaps Konoha had something to do with the destruction of Uzushiogakure. Konoha had only sent Tsunade and 9 other Senju to aid the Uzumaki. It was a good thing the invaders had already left. Otherwise, this rescue team would have been slaughtered. Now they were being attacked within Land of Fire, and the attackers seemed to be targeting the Senju. Considering the future of the Senju clan, with only Tsunade remaining, Shin's suspicions grew stronger. But even if he was right, he wouldn't say anything. It was just speculation. He had no proof. And even if he did, what good would it do? Loose lips sink ships. Some things were better left unsaid. He didn't know if these were Hiruzen's men or Danzo's. His gut said Danzo. Tsunade was Hiruzen's disciple. Hiruzen wasn't a saint, but he wasn't evil either. He wouldn't attack his own student. But Danzo? That guy was capable of anything. I'll have to watch out for Danzo in Konoha, but as long as I keep a low profile, he shouldn't notice me. But Tsunade had seen him move with incredible speed while dodging the kunai and shuriken. Hopefully, she wouldn't mention it. Damn it! Tsunade noticed one of the attackers cutting down Senju ninjas with ruthless efficiency. She estimated his strength to be at elite Jonin level, perhaps slightly weaker than her, but far stronger than the others. He had already killed 3 Senju Jonin. Tsunade's eyes blazed with fury. She tried to reach him, but she was blocked by Chunin, who fought with suicidal desperation. "Get out of my way, you little ants!" Tsunade slammed her foot into the ground, creating a spiderweb of cracks. The earth shook, throwing the Chunin off balance. Some of them even stumbled and fell into the fissures, unable to move. Tsunade ignored them and charged towards the elite Jonin. The Jonin retreated, shooting Tsunade a cold look. "Retreat!" he yelled. The attackers vanished into the forest without hesitation. Tsunade glared at their retreating figures, frustrated. They had managed to capture one alive, but he had committed suicide before they could interrogate him. Shin and Kushina emerged from their hiding spot. Shin looked at Tsunade, her eyes red with rage, and shook his head. This was a tragedy. 3 Senju Jonin were dead. Only 6 remained, and they were all wounded. Jonin were valuable assets to any hidden village, even more so to a clan. The Senju clan was a shadow of its former glory. Besides Tsunade, they only had 9 Jonin, and now 3 were gone. "Collect their bodies. Let's go," Tsunade said grimly. They continued towards Konoha, the mood somber. 2 days later, they finally reached Konoha, the most powerful hidden village in the ninja world. The rest of the journey was uneventful. "You all head back and see to their burial. I'll take these children to see the Hokage," Tsunade instructed the remaining Senju. They nodded and headed towards the Senju clan compound. Tsunade led Shin, Kushina, Akiko, Kai, and Hika, the 5 Uzumaki survivors, to the Hokage's office. Upon reaching the office, Tsunade punched the door to splinters. Hiruzen Sarutobi looked up, his eyebrow twitching as he saw Tsunade. "Ah, Tsunade, you're back. How did it go with the Uzumaki clan?" He didn't even bother mentioning the door. This wasn't the first time she'd done this. "The Uzumaki clan is gone. These are the survivors," Tsunade said, her voice heavy with grief. "What? Gone? How?" Hiruzen shot to his feet. "I was too late. The clan was already destroyed when I arrived." Tsunade clenched her fists. If only they had received the news sooner, perhaps this tragedy could have been averted. "I see." Hiruzen sat back down, his gaze sweeping over Shin and the other children, assessing them. Shin squirmed under his scrutiny. Hiruzen's eyes were sharp. This was Hiruzen in his prime, not the old man he would become. His gaze seemed to pierce through you, seeing all your secrets. Shin didn't like it one bit. Chapter 14. Settling into the Senju compound. Hiruzen observed the children for a moment, then his face took on a mournful expression. "It grieves me to hear of the tragedy that befell the Uzumaki clan. Rest assured, Konoha and the Uzumaki are steadfast allies. We will find the perpetrators and bring them to justice. For now, make yourselves at home in Konoha. You are safe here. No one will harm you." Hiruzen's words seemed to ease the tension. Hikaru and Kai visibly relaxed. "Lord Hokage, please, you must find those who did this," Kai cried. Akiko also wept, tears flowing freely as she remembered her loved ones. "We will avenge the Uzumaki clan. They are our allies, and anyone who harms them is an enemy of Konoha," Hiruzen declared solemnly. Hiruzen was a skilled leader. His words calmed even Kushina, who had been on edge. Shin could tell because Kushina's grip on his hand loosened. When they first arrived in Konoha, Kushina had been clinging to him, her small hand tightly gripping his. Coming to this unfamiliar place, it was impossible for a 5-year-old not to be nervous. "Tsunade, how about we have them stay at the Senju compound?" Hiruzen turned to Tsunade. "That's fine, but there's something you need to explain to me first." Bam! Tsunade slammed her fist on Hiruzen's desk, the solid wood splitting under the force. "Sendaime, we were attacked by unknown assailants within Land of Fire borders. What's going on?" Hiruzen's eyes widened. He stood up. "You were attacked?" Seeing the fury in Tsunade's eyes, he knew it was true. Had ninjas from another village infiltrated Land of Fire? "How many were there?" Hiruzen asked, his voice grave. 25, at least 10 jonin, and one of them was an elite. Hiruzen's expression darkened. That was a significant force. If they were indeed foreign ninjas, this could be a serious threat. "Tsunade, this is my oversight. I failed to detect such a large force within our borders. I will have the Anbu investigate this thoroughly." He knew that Tsunade's anger meant there had been casualties. "Let me know when you have more information." Tsunade left the Hokage's office with the children. Just as they stepped out, they saw a man with a grim aura approaching. Tsunade frowned. It was Danzo. He held a high position in Konoha, but Tsunade loathed him. He was a man who operated in the shadows, his methods ruthless and underhanded. Tsunade, welcome back. Are these the Uzumaki survivors? Danzo's eyes flickered as he looked at the children. He still had both his eyes and his arm. He hadn't undergone his future modifications yet. Tsunade scoffed and walked away without a word, the children following behind. As they left, Shin glanced at Danzo. He recognized him instantly. The scar on his chin was a dead giveaway. Danzo scowled. Tsunade had just disrespected him, just like the rest of the Senju clan. He entered the Hokage's office, noting the shattered door with a frown. He turned to Hiruzen. Danzo, what brings you here? Hiruzen asked, his brow furrowed. I have something to discuss with you. As do I. Hiruzen walked to the window, watching Tsunade lead the Uzumaki survivors away. He waved a hand. The Anbu guards hidden in the shadows vanished. Only Hiruzen and Danzo remained in the office. Danzo, Tsunade said she was attacked on her way back. I want to know if you had anything to do with it. Hiruzen's gaze was sharp and accusatory. Humph, are you implying that I attacked your student? Danzo snorted, his eyes narrowing. I had nothing to do with it. Danzo stormed out, abandoning whatever he had wanted to discuss. It was you, wasn't it, Danzo? Hiruzen sat down heavily. He knew Danzo better than anyone. Even though Danzo hadn't betrayed himself, Hiruzen could see through his lies. Punish Danzo? He had no concrete evidence, and even if he did, he would protect Danzo. He would have to find a way to appease Tsunade. This is the Senju clan compound. You'll be staying here. Most of the houses are empty. Choose whichever you like. Tsunade led the children into the compound. It's so big, even bigger than the Uzumaki clan grounds, Akiko exclaimed. Shin looked around. It was eerily empty. It seemed the once great Senju clan was a shadow of its former self. Kushina, which one do you want? Shin asked. Shin, and you, little girl, come with me, Tsunade said. Shin looked at her questioningly. Kid, you weren't exactly subtle back there. I saw what you did, Tsunade said with a knowing smirk before turning and walking away. Shin's face stiffened. He hesitated for a moment, then took Kushina's hand and followed Tsunade. Kai watched them leave, jealousy burning in his eyes. Why is Lady Tsunade treating him differently? He muttered resentfully. Akiko didn't think too much about it. Having a place to stay was good enough for her. She chose an empty house and started cleaning. Why are we following her? Kushina grumbled. Shin shrugged. Tsunade had seen a glimpse of his true strength. He just hoped she wouldn't tell anyone. If she did, life in Konoha would become complicated. They followed Tsunade to a small courtyard. There are a few empty rooms over there. You can stay here, Tsunade said. Thank you, Lady Tsunade. Shin looked around the courtyard. It was much nicer than the other houses they had seen. Does anyone live here? He asked. Yes, I do. It gets lonely living alone, so I thought I'd have you, my interesting little friend, stay here. Tsunade looked at Shin with amusement. She was intrigued by this unusual child. And you too, little girl. You're welcome, Tsunade said to Kushina. I won't thank you. Kushina snapped, clearly annoyed at being treated as an afterthought. Chapter 15. Too exceptional for this world. In the living room, Shin and Kushina sat facing Tsunade. They had finished tidying up their rooms, and now Shin felt it was time to have a chat with Tsunade. She knew he was hiding his strength. While she didn't know the extent of it, she knew he wasn't just an ordinary child. If she told the Sandaime, knowing his personality, he would definitely have Anbu keep an eye on Shin. Shin didn't want to be monitored. It would expose his secrets and complicate things. Lady Tsunade, there's something I need to talk to you about. Oh, go ahead. Tsunade took a sip from her cup, her eyes twinkling with amusement. She wasn't stupid. She had a good idea what Shin wanted to talk about. Lady Tsunade, you're aware that I'm not exactly normal, strength-wise. Shin didn't beat around the bush. There was no point. It was already out in the open. Indeed, the speed you displayed when we were attacked was quite surprising. Tsunade's gaze was intense. She had been genuinely shocked. Shin's speed rivaled her own. It was hard to believe a 5-year-old could move that fast. Well, it's not that unusual. People can exhibit superhuman strength in moments of danger. It was probably just an adrenaline rush. Shin made up a flimsy excuse. Heh, you think I'm an idiot? I'm a medical ninja. Tsunade scoffed. What Shin described was possible. People could unleash incredible power in life-or-death situations. But such bursts came at a cost, either a shortened lifespan or even death. Shin, however, was perfectly fine. This wasn't just an adrenaline rush. He was trying to fool her, and she wasn't falling for it. Okay, fine. I'm a bit stronger than I look, but I need you to keep it a secret, Lady Tsunade. Shin knew Tsunade wasn't easily fooled, so he dropped the act. There was no point. It would only make her more suspicious. Why should I? Tsunade was puzzled. Why hide his talent? He was just a child, yet he could move with such speed. Regardless of the method, he was a genius. Lady Tsunade, have you ever heard the saying, "A tree that stands taller than the rest will be felled by the wind. A mound that rises above the shore will be eroded by the current. One who walks above others will be criticized by the masses." When someone is too exceptional, they attract not only admiration, but also envy. And envy is a dangerous thing. It can twist people beyond recognition. Shin's words startled Tsunade. She stared at him as if he were a monster. I haven't heard that saying before, but I understand the sentiment. You make a good point. I'm starting to doubt you're really a 5-year-old. Tsunade eyed him skeptically. If these words had come from someone much older, she wouldn't have been surprised. But Shin was only 5. Shin coughed awkwardly. He might have overdone it with the profound act. Don't ask me how I know these things. I've always been too exceptional for my own good, always attracting envy and jealousy. Shin tilted his chin up, a smug expression on his face. Tsunade burst out laughing. You're quite the character. It's not an act, it's the truth. I'm so used to an extraordinary life that I want to experience what it's like to be normal. Tsunade and Kushina both stared at him, speechless. One word echoed in their minds, "Show off!" Shin smirked inwardly. He had successfully diverted her attention from his strength. Fine, I'll keep your secret, but you have to agree to a few conditions, Tsunade said. A few? Are you sure it's not just one? Shin smiled, but inwardly he was groaning. Yes, a few, not one, Tsunade said triumphantly. Let's see how you weasel your way out of this, kid. As long as they're not unreasonable, I suppose I can agree, Shin said cautiously. Kushina's expression changed. She glared at Tsunade. Don't you dare ask for anything outrageous. Don't worry, I won't make things difficult for you, Tsunade said, completely ignoring Kushina. Kushina slammed her hand on the table, fuming. This woman was deliberately ignoring her. First, from now on, when I ruffle your hair or pinch your cheeks, you're not allowed to resist or dodge. Shin's face fell. Kushina's expression mirrored his. Old hag, you just want to take advantage of Shin. Kushina jumped onto her chair, glaring at Tsunade. What did you just call me? Tsunade was furious. She was only 16, and this little girl was calling her an old hag. You heard me, cougar. Kushina was fearless when it came to Shin. Little girl, if you weren't so young, I'd teach you some manners. Humph, old hag, if I were your age, I'd be the one teaching you some manners. Tsunade and Kushina locked eyes, the air crackling with tension. Ahem, shouldn't we focus on the important matters at hand? I agree to your condition, Lady Tsunade, Shin interjected. Tsunade narrowed her eyes. Shin had been so resistant to her touch before. Why the sudden change of heart? Was he up to something? She wasn't going to underestimate him now. In truth, Shin was playing the long game. He'd let her have her fun for now, but he'd get his revenge later, with interest. He'd make her regret taking advantage of him. Shin, you agreed? Kushina looked at him, betrayed, then turned away, refusing to acknowledge him. Seeing Kushina's anger, Tsunade felt a strange sense of satisfaction. Then she mentally slapped herself. Why was she competing with a 5-year-old? Now, on to my other conditions, Tsunade announced. She watched Shin closely, trying to gauge his reaction. But to her disappointment, his expression remained unchanged. He even gestured for her to continue. Tsunade's suspicion grew. Something was off. She had no idea that Shin was planning to settle the score in the future, with interest. Chapter 16. A par with Tsunade. Weren't you going to tell me your other conditions? Cat got your tongue? Shin looked at Tsunade expectantly. I haven't quite decided yet. I'll let you know later. Tsunade looked at Shin, her mind still searching for suitable conditions. You might not get another chance. Shin's words held a hidden meaning. He was confident that his strength would soon surpass Tsunade's. With his perfect sage body and the system's cheat, his growth rate was unpredictable, even to him. Speaking of which, I'm curious about your strength. Come with me to the training grounds. Tsunade stood up and led Shin to her private training area behind the courtyard. It was a spacious area. Kushina trailed behind them, her cheeks puffed out like a disgruntled chipmunk. She was still sulking. "All right, Shin, let's spar." "Wait, what?" Shin stared at Tsunade in disbelief. Spar with her? Was she joking? He was no match for her right now. He wasn't into masochism. "Don't worry, I'll go easy on you," Tsunade said reassuringly. "Go for it, Shin. Beat her." Kushina cheered, pumping her little fist. "Kushina, are you crazy? If I could beat her, I would, but I can't. Do you want to see me get pulverized?" Shin whispered to Kushina. "Pulverized? That bad? On second thought?" Kushina recalled Tsunade's brutal display during the ambush and shook her head. One punch could turn a person into a mangled mess. Fighting her was definitely risky. How about we settle this peacefully? I'm not a fan of violence," Shin said to Tsunade, spreading his hands. Tsunade's eyes narrowed. She chuckled. "Fine, if you don't want to fight, then you can just take a beating." With that, she threw a punch at Shin. Feeling the force of the blow, Shin's eyes widened. Was she serious? He didn't think she would actually hurt him, but his instincts screamed at him to dodge. Quick reflexes. Tsunade retracted her fist, impressed. Even a Chunin wouldn't have been able to dodge that. "Hold on." Shin quickly stopped her as she prepared to attack again. "There's no benefit for me in fighting you, so I'll have to decline." "Benefit? What kind of benefit do you want?" Tsunade asked. "Well, if you teach me an A-rank jutsu, I wouldn't mind sparring with you," Shin said, his eyes gleaming. If she refused, he wouldn't lose anything and would avoid a beating. If she agreed, he'd gain an A-rank jutsu. It was a win-win situation. "You're a shrewd one, aren't you? Fine, I agree. I can part with an A-rank jutsu," Tsunade said nonchalantly. As the Senju clan princess, if he had asked for an S-rank jutsu, she might have hesitated. But an A-rank jutsu? She didn't mind. She was more interested in uncovering Shin's secrets. "All right then, please go easy on me, Lady Tsunade." Shin stepped back, putting some distance between them. He focused on Tsunade. This was a chance to test his strength. Of course, there were some things he wouldn't use, like the Rasengan and the adamantine sealing chains. The chains were fine, but using the Rasengan would raise too many questions. It would cause a commotion. After all, the Rasengan was a jutsu that required no hand seals. The most impressive thing about the Rasengan wasn't its power, although it was powerful. There were other A-rank jutsu that were stronger, but the fact that it didn't require hand seals made it unique. No hand seals meant instant activation. In a life-or-death battle, even a fraction of a second could make all the difference. Besides, Shin wasn't planning on going all out. He always kept some cards up his sleeve. He knew Tsunade would keep her word about not revealing his strength, but he was still used to hiding his true abilities. "You can make the first move," Tsunade said. "Then I won't hold back." Shin wasn't going to be polite. He was clearly at a disadvantage. Holding back half his strength, Shin charged towards Tsunade. When he was 3 meters away, he leaped into the air, aiming a punch at her face. "You can do it, Shin," Kushina cheered nervously. "You little brat." Tsunade scowled. Attacking someone's face was a low blow, especially a woman's. The fist might be small, but the force behind it was undeniable. Tsunade dodged. She wasn't going to take that punch to the face. "Don't jump so carelessly, kid. You have no leverage in the air. Let me show you how it's done." After dodging Shin's attack, Tsunade retaliated with lightning speed, aiming for his stomach. Bam! Wood splintered. Her fist connected not with Shin's body, but with a log. He had used the substitution jutsu. Tsunade's eyes narrowed. She spun around and threw another punch. Their fists collided. Shin was sent flying backward. Just before he crashed to the ground, he twisted in midair, landing gracefully on his feet. Tsunade shook her arm, the ground beneath her cracking slightly. "What a strength!" Her arm was numb. She hadn't used her monstrous strength, but even her normal punches packed a wallop. What kind of monster was this kid? How could he be so strong at such a young age? "Hey, are you all right?" Tsunade asked, concerned. After using the substitution jutsu, Shin had appeared behind her, launching a surprise attack. Her counterattack had been a bit hasty. She hadn't controlled her strength. "Ouch! That hurts! I think my arm is broken. I can't continue." Shin cried out dramatically, his expression exaggerated. "Shin, are you hurt?" Kushina rushed over, checking his arm with worry. She glared at Tsunade. Tsunade also hurried over to check on him. Her punch had been powerful, even a Jonin would have been injured. Ahem, Kushina, I'm fine, Shin winked at her. Kushina relaxed, understanding his silent message. He was faking it. Chapter 17, Uzumaki Mito. Sorry, Shin, I didn't control my strength back there. Here, let me heal you. Tsunade approached Shin, a green glow of chakra forming in her hand. She was about to use medical ninjutsu. Shin didn't feel a thing. He wasn't injured. There was nothing to heal. Even if he had been injured, with his perfect sage body, he would have recovered in moments. Tsunade's expression shifted from concern to anger. You little liar! She threw a punch. Shin dodged just in time. Busted, Shin mumbled, rubbing his nose sheepishly. Tsunade was the best medical ninja in Konoha. Fooling her was a long shot. Ahem, Lady Tsunade, as you can see, I'm not that strong. How about we call it a draw? Tsunade looked at him, then nodded. She felt she had a decent grasp of his abilities. He was strong and fast, likely at elite Chunin level, maybe even higher. He had used the perfect sage body proficiently, but hadn't displayed any other jutsu. It was hard to gauge his combat experience from just a few exchanges, especially since she hadn't gained the upper hand. She watched Shin chatting with Kushina, seemingly unharmed, then flexed her slightly numb arm. Monster, she thought. No wonder he wanted to hide his strength. If it were exposed, it would only cause him trouble. If only she knew he hadn't even used his full power. Lady Tsunade, about that A-rank jutsu. Shin looked at her expectantly. I keep my promises. What's your chakra nature? Tsunade asked. No need to ask, Lady Tsunade. I want to learn the multi-shadow clone jutsu. Shin had already decided. The multi-shadow clone jutsu would be incredibly useful to him. The multi-shadow clone jutsu? Tsunade frowned. You should choose another jutsu. The multi-shadow clone jutsu is dangerous. It's forbidden. The multi-shadow clone jutsu could be fatal if not used carefully. Tsunade was hesitant to teach it to Shin. Lady Tsunade, I understand the risks. I'm an Uzumaki, remember? Shin smiled. The multi-shadow clone jutsu would accelerate his training significantly. He already had the shadow clone jutsu, but creating clones one by one was inefficient. Fine. I don't know why you want to learn this jutsu, but I'll teach you. Just promise me you'll be careful. Seeing his insistence, Tsunade agreed, but she stressed the dangers of the jutsu. Even for an Uzumaki with large chakra reserves, it was a jutsu to be treated with caution. I haven't learned the multi-shadow clone jutsu myself, but I have a scroll with the training method. Here you go. Tsunade pulled out a small scroll and handed it to Shin. You're just going to give me the scroll and let me figure it out myself? Aren't you worried I won't be able to learn it? You have the scroll. It's up to you to learn it. Honestly, I'd prefer it if you didn't, Tsunade said bluntly. Shin shrugged. Not learning the multi-shadow clone jutsu wasn't an option. It wasn't that difficult for him. It only required a single hand seal. For ninjas with limited chakra, it might be challenging, but Shin had chakra to spare. Oh, I almost forgot. Tsunade smacked her forehead. You two need to come meet my grandmother. Shin's heart skipped a beat. Tsunade's grandmother was Uzumaki Mito, the wife of Hashirama Senju and a former princess of the Uzumaki clan. Mito knew all the Uzumaki sealing jutsu and was the previous Ninetales Jinchuriki. She must be powerful. Shin guessed her strength might even surpass the Sandaime's. Of course, this was just speculation. Perhaps she wasn't a combat specialist. Tsunade called the other 3 Uzumaki survivors. They were all going to meet Mito. They followed Tsunade deep into the Senju compound, arriving at a small, elegant courtyard. There, they met Uzumaki Mito. She looked quite old, which made sense, considering she had lived through the Warring States period. But Shin was confused. Didn't Mito have the strength of 100 seal? Why did she look so old? The strength of 100 seal was an S-rank jutsu that allowed the user to store chakra in their forehead, marked by a diamond-shaped seal. When needed, the stored chakra could be released by using the release technique. And it had another benefit that women would kill for: eternal youth. Mito knew the strength of 100 seal. Why didn't she use it to maintain her youth? Perhaps she no longer cared about her appearance. After all, she was nearing the end of her life. Why bother with such superficial things? Grandmother, I'm sorry. The Uzumaki clan, only these few remain. Tsunade hung her head, unable to meet Mito's eyes. Mito sighed. She hadn't expected the Uzumaki clan, with its 1,000-year history, to meet such a tragic end. Her gaze swept over Shin, Kushina, and the others, finally settling on Shin. Shin felt a strange sensation as Mito's eyes locked onto him. It was as if she could see right through him, even more so than the Sendaime. Mito gave Shin a kind smile. "What's your name, young man?" "Uzumaki Shin." Shin met her gaze. He could sense no hostility from her. "Shin, I can sense an extraordinary power within you. I hope you use it wisely," Mito said, her voice solemn. "Extraordinary power?" Tsunade looked at Shin, surprised. Shin's heart pounded. Was she referring to his perfect sage body? Had she seen through him? Then he remembered Hashirama Senju, who also possessed a perfect sage body. And Mito was his wife. It wasn't that strange for her to be able to sense something like that. In truth, Mito didn't know about the perfect sage body. She simply sensed a life force within Shin that was similar to Hashirama's, vast and vibrant. Chapter 18, Tsunade's brother, Nawaki. After a short visit, they left as Uzumaki Mito retired to rest. "Hey, my grandma said you have some extraordinary power. What is it? You seem to have a lot of secrets." Tsunade fixed Shin with a curious stare. "How should I know?" Shin shrugged, feigning ignorance. He couldn't reveal his perfect sage body. Besides, even if he did, no one would understand what it meant. Hashirama Senju was remembered for his wood release, not his sage body. But without the perfect sage body, his wood release wouldn't have been so devastatingly powerful. Yamato's wood release, for example, was only slightly stronger than regular jutsu. It was even dubbed pseudo-wood release. Speaking of the Senju clan, they must have some wood release jutsu scrolls left behind by Hashirama. Shin was eager to see them. He didn't have the wood release Kekkei Genkai yet, but he was confident that with enough research he could develop it. Not the watered-down version Yamato had, but the real deal, like Hashirama's. "Shin, what are you thinking about? You're about to walk into a wall." Kushina pulled him back, snapping him out of his thoughts. Shin stared at the wall in front of him, embarrassed. If Kushina hadn't stopped him, he would have walked right into it. "Seriously? Are you blind?" Tsunade chuckled. Shin glared at her. He really wanted to punch her right now, but he wasn't strong enough yet. He'd have to bide his time. He'd get her back one day. Tsunade noticed his glare but dismissed it. "By the way, I'm planning on enrolling the 4 of you in the academy." Tsunade looked at Shin, Kushina, Kai, and Akiko. They couldn't stay at the Senju compound forever. They were at the right age to start school, and Tsunade thought the academy would be a good environment for them. Of course, if you don't want to become ninja, you don't have to go. She wouldn't force them. "I'll go. I want to be a ninja and avenge my family," Kai declared, his eyes burning with hatred. "I want to go too," Akiko said. The destruction of the Uzumaki clan had taught her a harsh lesson about the importance of strength. She wanted to become a ninja, at least strong enough to protect herself. "All right, since you've both decided, I'll talk to the Sendaime tomorrow," Tsunade said. "Hey, you haven't asked us yet." "Oh? Don't you two want to become ninja?" Tsunade looked at Shin and Kushina, surprised. "Of course we do, but shouldn't you at least pretend to care about our opinion?" Shin said. Tsunade clenched her fist, annoyed. "Brat, if you don't want a beating, stop messing with me." Shin wisely shut his mouth. Knowing Tsunade, she would make good on her threat. Lady Tsunade, what about me?" Hikaru, the only adult among the survivors, spoke up. If you can pass the test, you can become a Konoha shinobi. If not, you'll have to find another way to make a living," Tsunade said. Hikaru thought for a moment. "Please tell Lord Hokage that I want to become a Konoha shinobi." "Fine, I'll let him know, but whether you become one or not depends on you." With that, Tsunade left with Shin and Kushina. Akiko, Kai, and Hikaru headed towards their assigned houses. "Damn it, why is Lady Tsunade so nice to that Shin?" Kai seethed with jealousy. And earlier, when they met Uzumaki Mito, she had mostly focused on Shin, ignoring him completely. He already had a grudge against Shin. Now, fueled by jealousy, his hatred deepened. Akiko and Hikaru glanced at Kai but didn't say anything. As they walked back with Tsunade, Shin noticed a boy around his age carrying several skewers of grilled meat. The boy's face paled when he saw Tsunade. He turned and tried to sneak away. "Nawaki! Stop right there! Where do you think you're going?" Tsunade marched towards the boy, her expression fierce. "Is that Tsunade's brother, Nawaki?" Shin thought, observing the boy. Nawaki's fate was a tragic one. He died at the young age of 12. Sis, Nawaki turned reluctantly, hiding the skewers behind his back. I saw that. Don't even try to hide it. Where did you get those? I bought them. Bought them? I thought you were broke? Tsunade questioned. The last time Tsunade had lost a gamble, she had tried to borrow money from Nawaki. But Nawaki knew his sister's gambling habits. If he lent her money, he'd never see it again. So he had lied, saying he had spent all his money on ninja tools. Tsunade had left empty-handed. Now he had been caught red-handed with these delicious skewers. Nawaki felt tears welling up. Lying to your own sister? Those are confiscated. In a flash, the skewers were in Tsunade's hands, leaving Nawaki staring at her with puppy-dog eyes. Fine, here's one. There were 4 skewers in total. She gave one to Nawaki, one to Shin, one to Kushina, and kept one for herself. Smells delicious. Even better than the ones we make ourselves, Kushina said, sniffing the air. Yeah, not bad. And they're huge. Shin took a bite. They were indeed delicious, better than anything he could make. Perhaps he needed better ingredients. Sis, who are they? Nawaki asked curiously. They're from the Uzumaki clan, distant relatives of the Senju. Something happened to their clan, so they'll be living here from now on. They'll be attending the academy soon. Make sure you look after them, Tsunade said to Nawaki. Oh, hi! I'm Nawaki. Nawaki introduced himself. Nice to meet you. I'm Uzumaki Shin, and this is Uzumaki Kushina. We look forward to getting to know you, Shin said, officially acquainted with Nawaki. Chapter 19, Ninja Academy, Enrollment. Nawaki, do you have any allowance left? I'll pay you back tenfold when I win big. Tsunade looked at her brother hopefully. Nope, not a penny. Nawaki even turned his pockets inside out to prove he was broke, but Tsunade wasn't convinced. She suspected he was hiding money, but she had no proof. Oh well, it seems you're not destined for wealth, Tsunade sighed dramatically. Nawaki breathed a sigh of relief. He wanted nothing to do with that kind of wealth. He sidled up to Shin and whispered, Remember, never lend my sister money. You'll never see it again. Then he scurried off, afraid Tsunade might overhear. Doesn't he live with you? Shin watched Nawaki go, confused. He lives with Grandma. That little rascal avoids me like the plague, Tsunade grumbled. That's understandable. If I were your brother, I'd avoid you too. Shin looked at Tsunade pointedly. Who wouldn't avoid someone who took all their allowance? Tsunade might not eat people, but she sure ate money. Shin suspected her gambling habits had something to do with the Senju clan's decline. Hey, what's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Come on, Kushina, let's go. Shin took Kushina's hand and returned to Tsunade's courtyard. He pulled out the multi-shadow clone jutsu scroll and started studying. The jutsu was simple enough. It didn't take him long to master it. He formed the ram seal. Poof! Dozens of Shin clones filled the room. He dispelled the clones and went to inform Tsunade and Kushina that he was leaving the courtyard to explore the Senju compound. He wasn't just wandering aimlessly. He was looking for a suitable training spot. There was a training ground within Tsunade's courtyard, but he didn't want to train there and risk exposing his secrets. After a thorough search, he found no suitable location within the Senju compound. He'd have to look elsewhere in Konoha. But he wasn't going to wander around just yet. He had just arrived. The Sandaime was likely keeping an eye on them. He'd wait a while, lay low for now. He also had his replication system to consider. He currently had 3 common replication cards and 1 advanced. The advanced card could copy a wide range of things. S-rank jutsu, Kaj-level chakra and physique, even Kekkei Genkai. But there were limitations to copying Kekkei Genkai. He couldn't copy the Rinnegan or even the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. The Mangekyo Sharingan, however, was within reach. If I awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan and then copy another pair, could I evolve it into the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan? Shin wondered. The Mangekyo Sharingan was the Uchiha clan's ultimate dojutsu, but it had a fatal flaw. Overuse led to blindness. It was like a curse. The only way to overcome this was to evolve it into the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, which also granted the ability to use the perfect Susanoo. But to evolve it, one had to transplant the Mangekyo Sharingan of a sibling. Shin had no siblings. That path was closed to him. He'd have to find another way. The system was one option. He also suspected there might be other ways to evolve the Mangekyo Sharingan. Otherwise, how did Indra Otsutsuki obtain his Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan? And Hagoromo Otsutsuki's Rinnegan wasn't innate, it had evolved from the Sharingan. Shin wasn't too worried. Even if he couldn't evolve his Manjikyo Sharingan, he wouldn't go blind. He had the perfect sage body. Obito Uchiha had been able to use the Manjikyo Sharingan without side effects after transplanting Hashirama Senju's cells. With the perfect sage body, Shin didn't have to worry about blindness. But even so, he still wanted to evolve his Sharingan into the eternal Manjikyo Sharingan. He coveted its power. The perfect Susanoo was practically invincible, and with the eternal Manjikyo Sharingan and his perfect sage body, he could potentially awaken the Rinnegan himself. Just the thought was exciting. But it was too early to think about that now. His Sharingan was only at the 1 Tomoe stage. It would take time to reach the Manjikyo Sharingan, and even then, evolving it wouldn't be easy. By the time Shin returned to the courtyard, it was already dark. He had dinner and went to bed. The next day, Tsunade took Shin, Kushina, Akiko, and Kai to the Ninja Academy. The academy had been founded by the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju. It's already been a while since the semester started, so you'll be joining as transfer students. If there's anything you don't understand, don't hesitate to ask your teacher. Tsunade instructed them. Tanaka-sensei, these children are in your care now. Don't worry, Lady Tsunade. I'll take good care of them, Tanaka-sensei assured her. After entrusting the children to Tanaka-sensei, Tsunade left. As an elite jonin, she was a busy woman. They followed Tanaka-sensei to their classroom. Shin spotted Nawaki immediately. "Hey Shin, Kushina, you're in our class!" Nawaki exclaimed, jumping up. "Nawaki, sit down!" Tanaka-sensei scolded. Nawaki obediently sat back down. Despite being the grandson of the Shodaime Hokage, he still had to behave in class. "We have 4 new transfer students. Please welcome them to our class," Tanaka-sensei announced. The other students looked at Shin and the others curiously. Red hair was rare. To have 4 at once was unusual. No, wait, there were 5, including the other red-haired student already in the class, Choza Akimichi. "Why don't you all introduce yourselves?" "You first," Tanaka-sensei said, pointing to Shin. Shin shrugged. "I'm Uzumaki Shin. I like beautiful girls and dislike creeps. That's all." Tanaka-sensei's lips twitched. That was certainly an interesting introduction. Chapter 20. Kushina's Jealousy. "Uzumaki Shin, don't you think your introduction was a bit short? Shouldn't you talk about your dreams?" Tanaka-sensei looked at Shin expectantly. "Dreams are fleeting. That's why they're called dreams. Just keep them to yourself, I say." "All right. Next." Tanaka-sensei shook his head and turned to Kushina. Kushina looked at the class, feeling nervous. Shin gently squeezed her hand, reassuring her. Kushina relaxed instantly. "I'm Uzumaki Kushina. I like Shin, I hate Tsunade, and my dream is to be with Shin forever," Kushina declared boldly. The class erupted in gasps and whispers. Such a forward declaration. "She hates my sister?" Nawaki gaped, shocked that Kushina disliked Tsunade. Tanaka-sensei sighed. Kids these days were so precocious. Shin looked at Kushina, who had buried her face in her hands, her cheeks flaming red. "Ahem! Settle down!" Tanaka-sensei cleared his throat and sternly called for order. "You two, find an empty seat." Shin scanned the classroom. The only empty seats were at the back, so he led Kushina there. Akiko and Kai gave their introductions. Akiko's was unremarkable. She came across as a shy, timid girl. Kai, on the other hand, simply stated his name coldly, giving the impression that he wasn't approachable. "They all have the name Uzumaki and the same red hair. Are they all from the same clan?" A boy with a pineapple-shaped haircut and bored eyes glanced at them. "Shikaku, you're awake? That's a rare sight." Inoichi Yamanaka, sitting next to Shikaku Nara, remarked. "I didn't want to wake up, but you were all so loud," Shikaku grumbled. "Hi, I'm Uzumaki Shin. Nice to meet you." Shin, settled in his seat next to Kushina, greeted the girl with beautiful black hair sitting next to him. The girl looked surprised, then gave a gentle smile. "Hello, I'm Uchiha Mikoto. Nice to meet you too." Shin froze. He had only greeted her because she was pretty, but he hadn't expected her to be Uchiha Mikoto. But something wasn't right. He looked at Kushina, then back at Mikoto. Were they the same age? No, that couldn't be right. Mikoto should be older than Kushina. She should have already graduated from the academy. Maybe it has something to do with me being a transmigrant. In the original story, only Kushina came to Konoha. Now there are 4 of us, including me. Even a butterfly flapping its wings could cause a hurricane, let alone a person. Looks like I'm one of those people who inadvertently changed the world. Shin felt a surge of pride. Ouch! Kushina, what was that for? Shin looked at his arm, which was turning red from Kushina's pinch. Humph, you lecher! Kushina glared at him. So that was why he had chosen this seat, to be next to this pretty girl. Shin felt wronged. He admitted Makoto was pretty, but he was just being friendly. He wasn't a pervert. He didn't have any inappropriate thoughts about little girls. He couldn't understand Kushina sometimes. But then, he remembered Kushina's bold declaration in front of the whole class. She was definitely jealous. Kids in the ninja world really did mature fast. Obito had a crush on Rin before he was 5, and Sakura was infatuated with Sasuke at 6. Uchiha-san, why are you sitting at the back? Shin was curious. It wasn't common for girls to sit at the back. At least, that hadn't been his experience in his past life. The back was usually reserved for the tall kids and the troublemakers. Because no one wants to sit with me. Mikoto gave a wry smile. Everyone avoided her, so she had resigned herself to sitting at the back. Why? Kushina, her jealousy momentarily forgotten, was also curious. You're not from Konoha, are you? Mikoto asked. Wow, you're amazing. You figured that out right away, Kushina exclaimed. Mikoto shook her head. I'm from the Uchiha clan. That's why they avoid me. Kushina looked at her confused. Shin, however, had an idea. The Uchiha clan's reputation in Konoha was complicated. They had basically offended every other clan, and even the civilians. The Uchiha were known for their arrogance. Mikoto didn't seem arrogant, but it was a common trait among the Uchiha. Their arrogance made them unpopular, and their tendency to act superior only worsened things. The Uchiha clan was in charge of the Konoha police force, an important department responsible for maintaining law and order within the village. This position required them to interact with the other clans and the civilians. For other clans, it would have been an opportunity to build relationships and gain favor. For example, if someone from another clan committed a minor offense, they could turn a blind eye and earn their gratitude. But the Uchiha, with their strict adherence to the rules and their tendency to escalate minor offenses, had made themselves unpopular. And when it came to their own clan members, they were lenient, often turning a blind eye to their wrongdoings. This behavior naturally led to resentment from the other clans and the villagers. But the Uchiha clan was powerful. With the decline of the Senju, they were the strongest clan in Konoha. No one challenged them or even speak ill of them, for fear of being summoned to the police force headquarters for questioning. If they couldn't fight them, they would avoid them. The Uchiha clan was isolated, which was exactly what some people wanted. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. Also check out other content on the channel.